The International Association for Near-Death Studies presents NDE Radio, a weekly exploration of near-death experiences and similar encounters with the other side. Now, here's your host, Lee Whitting.
What can we learn from a serious illness? When sickness lays us low, should we simply hope to recover our previous lifestyle? Or should we gain lessons that only the recognition of our own mortality can teach us? Welcome to NDE Radio, brought to you by IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. I'm your host, Lee Whitting. Death has a way of bringing into sharp focus the more important things in life. This is the lesson that Deborah Power learned in December of 2013 after a near-death experience from a lingering pneumonia. Deborah had been awarded an all-expense-paid cruise to Belize, Honduras, and Cozumel. And several weeks prior to leaving, she experienced flu-like symptoms, but she dragged herself out of bed, boarded the boat anyway. That decision nearly killed her, and yet her story of illness taught her firsthand the loving touch of God's hand, the angels surrounding her, and most importantly, those lessons learned as she peeked beyond the veil. Most of all, she learned there's no time like the present. Deborah, welcome to NDE Radio.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Deborah, your little book titled Now Is Your Time describes in detail your worsening on board pneumonia. So I'd like you to skip to the point you were life-flighted to Methodist Texan Hospital and pick up the story from there.
Sure. We got there around 3:30 in the morning and, of course, was admitted to the second floor, which was a step-down unit from the intensive care unit, not far away. The doctor on call came in to check me in and did his normal routine, went home and said to himself, this lady, I will probably not see her in the morning. And so he said he could not sleep, and he prayed until it was time for him to come back to the hospital to make his early morning rounds. Before he got back, he did order me into intensive care. I wasn't hardly in my room yet. When he got there, called my husband out, and as a registered nurse, I knew that was not good for a doctor to call a family member out of the room. He showed my husband my x-ray and said, honestly, he didn't know how I was alive and that I may have to be put on life support. And that story I had related that he had gone home, couldn't sleep, and prayed all morning because I got there in the morning. Didn't think I was going to be there when I got there. It was determined rather than put me on life support, I would be put on CPAP, which I have a small case of claustrophobia. So that was not an easy thing for me to have on. But I struggled, and I became my own life coach and told myself I had to do whatever it took to keep myself alive. I had a great-grandson that was going to be born in March, and I wanted to be around for that. And so anyway, I just was laying there, and throughout the night, I was trying to sleep and could not sleep because hands kept coming on my body. And every time the hands came, I would look to see who was there, and no one was there, which was very puzzling to me. Again, being a nurse, I thought, okay, I'm on a lot of medications. I might be just having a hallucination. And so I would just relax and pray myself back to sleep while I fought with the CPAP. During that particular night, I remember taking the CPAP off to just give myself a normal cessation of breathing. That way I could actually fight against the fear of feeling suffocated. And anyway, I would keep it off until it would start beeping, because if it started beeping, then the nurses would come in and know that I had it off, which when I did that, my oxygenation level would drop. And so anyway, I went back to sleep. Again, the hands came several times. I was praying, what is this? What's going on? And the next time I woke up, I saw three angels standing at the foot of my bed. They were large, men-like beings. There was no wings. They just looked very militant in their glistening white, I guess, robes of royalty, very regal looking. Their features were just man-like is how the only way I can explain it. They were staring at my life. They were looking at the life force in me, my heart beating, my chest breathing. They were not directly looking into my eyes, and none of the angels were touching me. I realized that there was more than the three standing at the foot of my bed. My bed was surrounded, and the way that I knew that was because there was a commotion going on in the room, like behind them, whispers of excitement. The sense that I got was that there was just a lot of excitement in the room, which made me very, very curious, and I wanted to see what the excitement was all about. And that's when I realized my bed was surrounded with angels, because I had to lift up out of my body, which I believe my spirit lifted out of my body, so I could see over their shoulders and past their shoulders to the commotion that was behind them. And that's when I saw two women with long dark hair, very youthful. Again, I didn't see their features very, very clearly. I just got the sense that that was my mother, and my sister who had passed on in 2012. Mom had passed on in 2009. And with all of this seen, I just felt this immense peace, like my life was being protected. I had divine protection, as if divine bodyguards all around me. And it didn't really register that I was that close to death at the time. It was after that I realized that they were there, my family was there to receive me back home. I did realize, though, out of the right-hand side of my perception, right in the right-hand corner, there seemed to be kind of like a dark, black, like film. I don't know how to explain it other than what it represented to me was death. So I was very, very close to death, and the angels were there to guard my life. I felt like angels have guarded my life my entire life. So that wasn't very new, but to actually see them, that was new. That's something you don't see every day. And then I went back to sleep, very peaceful. I felt very loved. I felt very peaceful. I felt like I was in good hands. Everything was okay. And when I saw that, it just brought up so much courage and strength for me to handle now the CPAP. This was my part that I had to do, that, I had to overcome this fear of the feelings of suffocation. And so I went back to sleep. It wasn't very long after that. The hands came back. Came back several times. I'm an intercessor, so I continued to pray. At one point, actually got a little mad and at the Heavenly Father and said, please, I'm pretty much being demanding now. Tell me what these hands are all about, because this was just an unusual sensation. And because every time I woke up, I thought for sure I would see a respiratory therapist or a nurse or someone in the room actually touching me. That's how it felt. And what came to me was that these were the prayers of the people who wanted to be with me, who were praying for my life to be spared. Their prayers, like hands, were coming and being laid on me so that I would be healed, like healing hands. And that's pretty much it.
Wow. Now, when you say you felt there was a dark veil like death, was it a personified the way the angels were? Did you feel like it was a being, or was it just a dark place that you could go?
It was some type of an entity. I also described it like a dark cloud, like a dark veil. I guess it's just when you read in the scriptures, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. It just felt like a place where it was like a transitional place. Like I needed to, if I was going to get to the other side to be with my family, there was going to be a veil that I needed to walk through. Because I actually felt like I had entered through a veil, a very thin veil, to get to the place where the angels in my family were. It was like so, what's the right word? It was like as if you were stepping through a veil, like if you went through someone's room or home or restaurant and you had to like push back a veil to get where you were going.
It's that simple. It's that translucent curtain that we live with that keeps us from seeing the other side.
Exactly.
Sounds like to me.
Exactly.
Now, when you rose out of your body and looked over the angels and saw your mom and sister, did you feel like they were calling you, or
no,
were they just
all.
there to, in case you died, they would be there for you?
It was kind of like the welcoming committee. You know, it was like, as like this weekend, I gave my husband a surprise party. So it was like everybody knew that person was coming. Maybe the person that was coming didn't know. Like, you know, I knew it was close to death. But, yeah, it was kind of sort of like that. You know, you get to a place and everybody says, surprise, you know.
That's a great analogy. I like that one. Devorah is a Hebrew name, and I'm wondering, could you tell us a little about your religious upbringing and background?
Sure. I was born in New Orleans to Lucille and Donald Power. I'm the eldest of 7 daughters and 1 brother. He was the caboose. And Mom named me Deborah. She named me Deborah after the Deborah in Judges in the Bible. Deborah the judge, Deborah the warrior, Deborah the wife. And at a very early age, I became like her right-hand man type of person. She had so many babies. We were raised Catholic. And so Mom needed a lot of help when I was growing up. So I took on a mother figure very early in life, took on a lot of responsibilities. I remember being very young. And back in that time, it was no big thing to send your child, your 5, 6-year-old, to the grocery store to go get milk or whatever was needed at the house. And so I remember traveling probably about 3 or 4 blocks to the Catholic church on Canal Street in New Orleans to just go for confession, because as a Catholic, you had to go to confession once a week.
Yes.
To confess your sins to the priest. And I remember being very, very religious, very little, very early, and coming out of that church that day and God smiling at me. And so from a very small age, I remember having a very intimate relationship with my Creator. So, and I had several incidences as a child. I would see things that I don't think, well, maybe children do see, because you know, they want their parents to come in because they're seeing things. And I think we are, when we're younger and at certain times in our life, there are times when we can see through the veil. And sometimes the things that we see can be scary, and sometimes things can be quite glorious.
Now, you've described prayer in your case as a laying on of hands. And I want to ask you, how do you suppose prayer actually works? Is the prayer motivating God to heal you, or do you feel that the prayers themselves reflect the energy, you know, that your friends and family were sending to you directly? In other words, was it their hands being laid on you, or was it God's hands?
I believe it was a combination of all of that. I believe the life force energy that actually gives us the actual breath to breathe, to be alive, which comes from a divine place, which comes from the divine source, energy, Creator, is in all of us. And I think that and this is just my thought, but I do think we have a lot of power to choose if we want to stick around or if we want to go on. And I think when we come into agreement with one another that, hey, I want this person to stay, I think that's quite powerful, and I believe that's when healings happen, miracles. And then there's times when it's just our time to go. We've come here, we did what we were supposed to do, and it's time to go back to the source.
I've noticed as a chaplain in the hospital that when people are prayed for or people have faith in God themselves, that they seem to recover faster. People with similar diseases, one with faith and one without, the person with faith will leave the hospital 2 or 3 days before the other one will. And I'm sure there's that spiritual component's really important. And then recently I heard that Jimmy Carter, who I know millions of people have been praying for him in his cancer, is cancer-free today. So
isn't that awesome? What an awesome report. I love hearing reports like that.
Yeah,
and I believe
he had melanoma that had spread to his brain, and today he's cancer-free.
That's great news. I love hearing anything like that. I do believe that we have more power than we realize that we can tap into. I think our mind is very, very powerful. I also believe that we are spiritual first, having a human experience. And by that, I mean we come here, we volunteer to come here to experience these life experiences. And like you're saying, not all life experiences are beautiful. They can be very trying and traumatic. And but yet we come here and volunteer to do that so that we can experience this beautiful thing we call life. And the older I become, the more I believe I understand how powerful we truly are. And when we operate more from that spiritual place of, like, I want to overcome today, or there's something that is blocking me physically, whether it be a disease or someone at the job or someone we're in a relationship with, I believe that we have the power to choose. We have that free will to choose, I want to be a success in this today, or we can keep the mindset of like, well, I tried yesterday, so it probably won't happen again today. I mean, I believe that we have the power to overcome or to fail, and we choose that. So,
how would you, in your way of thinking, how do you see love and prayer interrelating?
Very intimately. I believe the source we all come from is pure love, pure, holy, divine love. And
when people pray, when people pray for themselves for something that they want, is it different than when they pray for the healing or the well-being of others?
No. I believe it's just pure love that they have for life. Life is a gift. Love is the greatest gift of all. And so I think they're one. I believe love is what we came here to do, to love and to be loved. And that's like the greatest lesson that I'm learning in life. That, when people, I'll just use this term, when people sin against us, when people do us wrong, the higher road will always be to consider every angle of where this person's coming from and why they may have reacted that way, which puts us back in that place of divine love to forgive them, to continue to love them no matter what they've done and how many times they've done it. And it's just that beautiful, never-ending circle of love and life. Those who walk more in divine love understand what I'm talking about. Do we like the things that are going on in this world? No, we do not. But can we stop it? No, we cannot. But can we love and forgive and pray for a better kingdom to come? Yes, and I believe that is also our purpose, to be the beings of love that we were created to be, to bring that sooner and quicker into existence.
Some of the media these days there were some headlines the last few days after that last shooting in California that were saying things like, God is not enough, God can't fix this, prayer is not enough. I can't accept that myself, but I thought I'd get you to comment on it too.
Well, I certainly don't agree with that, and there's a lot of power in agreement. So I would think that everyone has the free will to think what they want. I mean, like I said, we're divine beings. We're spiritual, mind, body, spirit. We have our own minds to think what we want, and we have the choice, the free will to think what we want to think. What I think is missing is that this energy source that we come from is so powerful that we really cannot comprehend it until we actually stop resisting it. I believe that we're here to be instruments of healing, truly, and that collectively, by us thinking the kind of thoughts that is going to bring peace and healing and love, by collectively thinking that way, we can bring in a better life, a better kingdom. That's the word I use all the time. A kingdom of love where there is no pain, where there is no death, where there is no disease, that it's perfect, the way it was meant to be. And yes, collectively, I believe that we can bring that about. I believe that's why we're here, to bring that to fruition. And so all the things that are happening now, to me, are just really gearing up for that to happen. It's, I believe the great Holy Spirit, the great Creator, I call him Yahweh, who eternally loves us forever and ever, yet we have the choice to love him or not, calls us to be one with him, calls us to be one with one another, to basically bring back the Garden of Eden situation that he wanted us to have from the beginning, a relationship so close to each other, where we truly are a brother and sister's keeper, where we care. So I just think that we all should be focused mentally and prayerfully on being instruments of peace ourselves and trying to bring love and peace every chance, every opportunity we can daily to one another.
Let me ask you a question about time. Your book, titled Now Is Your Time, tells us basically to seize the day, to not waste time, to embrace the now. And when God told Moses in Genesis, his name was I Am, in the Hebrew, as I understand it, it combines past, present, and future into one. And do you think living in the now brings us closer to God?
Absolutely. You know, we have this little saying here on earth, there's no time like the present. Really, when I guess back in the late 1990s, early 2000, I think it was in the year 2000, a thought came to my head, and it said to me, the thought said to me, if God had a watch, what would it look like? And I just immediately answered and said, well, it wouldn't have hands and it wouldn't have numbers. It would just say now. Because really that's all that we have. We are not promised this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow morning. All we have is now. So to me, that having that kind of a mindset is that all I have is now helps me to be less wasteful with my time. Like, what can I do now to bring about this kingdom? What can I do now so my husband knows that I love him eternally, or my children or my grandchildren? What can I do now to advance this kingdom? What can I do now to help my client today? What can I do now to have better health? If we have a now mindset, we procrastinate less. But on the flip side of that, it's like if we live in peace and we live in love, when you first started this question, it was about time. I believe that his time is always now. Like people that I've studied and read and gone to near-death conferences and listened to, there is no time on the other side like we have here. So it's a timeless time, and everything is present. So I like that idea. I like that we're not limited in any way. We really aren't there or here. And I was going to say,
isn't it interesting that, for instance, someone on the other side, like your mom and your sister, could track us in time. We're living in time. They're not living in time, and be there at the right time when you need them.
Oh, yes. Well, I believe again that my Creator's time is perfect. His timing is perfect. There's when we think about living in the now, there's a sense of urgency, correct? Like if I said to you, Lee, if you knew you were going to die 3 days from now, what would your plan be for the next 3 days? You would certainly be putting your house in order. You would certainly be putting your priorities in order. You would definitely not be putting off anything that you've been thinking about doing. You would do it now. And so on the flip side of that, I think living in a place of love and peace and just receiving daily, on a daily basis, moment to moment, I'm grateful to be alive. Oh, I'm so grateful. I know when I got out of that hospital, I had to leave on oxygen, and so my breath became very precious. When we're losing breath becomes very precious. And so it's kind of like living a life of great gratitude and being thankful and choosing joy over depression, choosing to accept the way things are, kind of like the serenity prayer, help me to change the things that I can and help me to accept things that I can't. It's just a more peaceful, loving, just a more garden-like life. It's beautiful.
Did your illness and your NDE change your attitude toward life?
I think it does. I went to an IAN's conference I got to go this year in San Antonio, where I actually had my near-death experience, so that was precious to me. They talked a lot about near-death experiences are like, they call them like rites of passage. And it's so funny because when my mother passed away, I was just in grief, as most people are when their mothers pass away. Mm-hmm. And I was laying in bed and praying for God to give me peace about it. And the vision that I received was my mother in a beautiful gown dancing, like half awake, half asleep kind of a vision. You're going to sleep, you're half awake, half asleep. So like a little dream or a little vision. And that gave me so much peace because in this vision, she was young, she was beautiful, and she was happy. And so getting that kind of a thought, just gave me the peace that I was needing to get through that horrific moment. I forgot the question.
Well, I was asking if your experience had changed your outlook on life, but let me go on to we're just about out of time. Okay. What motivated you to write your little book, and how can listeners get a copy of it?
Well, it's on Amazon. They offer it on Kindle for like $2.99. So it's on Amazon. You can get it that way. The title is Now Is Your Time. It's your turn. It's your time. It's very small, and so it takes probably about an hour to read it. I'm just hoping that through writing my experience, people can have hope that if they're facing the valley of the shadow of death, not to fear it. Because in the scriptures it talks about, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. The whole message is that we're never alone. Even when we feel the most alone, we are never alone. I believe that we are in great company. I believe in the cloud of witnesses. If we had more time, I'd speak so much more about my experience in Israel. But like our parents and those that have gone on before us, I believe that they are in the presence of complete knowledge and understanding, and there's no sense of timing. And so, like, even though we are not with them in a physical sense, spiritually we are all divinely connected, and they're like still in our lives. And if you spoke to many, many people, they would confirm what I'm saying at certain times of the day. They might have special knowings that, Rose is here again today with me. It's like there's just knowing. And so I hope that answers your question. I just wanted people to
it does,
hear my
Deborah. Thank you. We are out of time, but I want to thank Deborah Power for sharing your story of illness and healing, of being in the now, how it affected you and your thinking, and about the urgency of life. And if you'd like to listen to this show again or any other of our previous programs, please visit our website at nderadio.org. And for more information about IANDS, please visit that website at iands.org. This is Lee Whitting saying thanks for listening.